Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are in another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Who's a rookie?
Hey, Peter.
Hey, Bill.
Hey,
Naomi.
Morning,
Hey.
Naomi.
How are you this morning?
doing good.
Yeah. Episode number 104.
104.
Yeah.
Just rolls along.
We rolled past your birthday this past week, Peter.
Yeah.
Was your birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I started right after the show.
Yeah.
Sure. I started celebrating after the show.
Right.
We saw your house in Clinton,
Right.
and you took me for a lobster roll
Right.
on the beach.
Right.
We were there,
Nice.
so let's keep going. 2 more miles. There we were.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I rolled out all the way through yesterday. More beach, more party, more stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, we had July 4th
Yeah.
4th of July.
yesterday, so
Yeah.
episode 104 on after July 4th.
There you go.
A little bit of a correlation there. But yeah,
Excellent.
we're doing good.
Excellent. So, Peter,
Yes, Bill.
this show is dedicated to you.
What I do now?
It's called Selling Houses Fast.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we can dedicate the other half to you, too.
Yeah, well, I do need to sell some houses. So here we go. Here's a description. It is not a secret that you make all your money when you buy and collect it when you sell. But what is the fastest way to sell and collect? On this podcast, learn how the selling process should be the easiest part of your business. And if you don't sell, what are the 14 main reasons why you don't sell quickly? Plus, what you can do about it to collect your big check faster and not stress about it.
I'm all ears.
Here, here.
So, the first thing I'd like to talk about is just like buying houses, when you sell a house, there's 2 different ways you got to do it. And the way we distinguish what those 2 ways are is if they're ugly or if they're pretty,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it has everything to do with that. And I know we talk about it, but we don't really emphasize it enough. So why don't you guys tell me what your version of ugly and pretty are?
So it doesn't necessarily mean that ugly is an ugly house.
Right.
It can be actually an okay looking house, but it may have dated bathrooms. It may have a dated kitchen. Its roof is on its way out. It needs work.
Right.
Ugly house.
So my version is it's in a condition where you think you need to renovate it to sell. So you borrow money usually for that, and you don't want to hang on to it for a long time. So you have short money, short project, and a quick sale, rather than, this house is okay. I can rent it out. I can sell it on terms. I can wait 5 years, 7 years, 10 years to get my money because it's okay. It's livable. It's nice. Somebody will live in it.
Right.
Mhm.
So I absolutely, positively love Mac computers. Now, I know some of my listeners are going to be like, because they like their PCs. But Mac computers are not cheap.
Uh-huh.
Agreed?
True.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, the
true.
last one we just bought was $20-something $100.
Oh.
23, 20, I don't know. Emma will tell me. I have no idea how much it was.
Well, as long as it's worth it to you.
So it is very worth it to me because we use them exclusively, and they are so much easier to use than a PC in my mind. So the reason why I'm asking that, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because suppose you were in a store and you had to spend $2,000 for a computer, right? Now PC owners don't spend $2,000 usually, okay, or say $2,500. I think.
The mic is coming out.
Her
Emma's
boyfriend,
speaking.
her boyfriend spent $4,000. Watch.
No,
Here we go.
no. There's a totally different differentiation between a Mac laptop and a PC laptop because you have to specify. You're talking about laptops,
Okay.
not desktops.
Okay.
Because PC desktops can be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 if
Okay.
you put the right parts in them.
Okay.
When you're talking about laptops, the standard, I believe, the newest Mac laptop, I think, is $5,000. I'm
Okay.
not positive. I can look, but you can get a PC laptop for $500, or you
Right.
can get it for $2,000, or you could get it. They have a lot of scale. I don't know
Okay.
if it's important to what point you're trying to make, but
Okay. So let's talk about a 15-inch MacBook Pro.
I'll
That's
look it up.
$2,300.
Yeah,
It's not even important what kind of computer. So the point that I'm trying to make is if you were to go to the store and they were on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
And say there was 5 of them on the shelf, okay? And one of them had a damaged package. Which one would you not take? For $2,300, which one would you not take?
Same price.
They're all the same price.
Oh.
They're $2,300 and there's
Well, I'm
5
not
of
taking
them
a
on the
dinged
shelf.
up anything for the same amount as a good one.
Well, I would take the dinged up one and then negotiate a discount.
There you go.
Okay, so we just described the ugly house, pretty house business. How much, Em?
Depending on how much storage you want, 24 to 28.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to spend $2,400 to $2,800, which one are you going to take?
The one that's working correctly and
The
has
one that doesn't have damage or doesn't have something visibly wrong with it, correct?
Yeah.
So what makes you think that when people are buying houses, it's not any different? Is the analogy good?
Yeah.
Or am I out
think-
on
I think
am
so.
I out on the edge of the
No,
plank of this
just-
here ship?
You're
Yep.
okay so far. Just keep talking.
Just keep
We're-
talking.
Just keep going. We'll
Okay.
track and keep building the picture.
All right, good. So here's what I'm trying to bring up. So to me, I actually don't have. There's actually 3 types of houses in my head, and I didn't realize this until this morning when I was laying in bed thinking about what am I going to talk about on the podcast, because that's usually when the ideas come to me. And I realized that there's actually 3 different kinds of houses for me. There's not 2. There's 3. There's the ugly house, and the ugly house is like you remember that house we looked at on Parker Farms Road with the
How
dogs?
could I forget? Yeah.
That was the most, probably the ugliest one. I mean, it was so bad we were kind of gagging when we were in the house, right? It's like hard to breathe. It's like
Yes.
there's no way anybody's living in this house. I mean, it was
Yes.
vacant. They probably had 30 dogs. They looked like they had an elephant in there. I mean, with claws, because it just like chewed through walls,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it just stunk, right? It was
It
like not
really-
livable.
Yeah.
To
I think
me,
that guy was living in there though, but
yeah, to me there
Somehow.
was just not any way anybody could live in that. To me, that's an ugly house. Then a pretty house is literally that. You go in and you just sweep the floors barely, and you just
Mhm.
sell the house.
it's ready to go.
Now, that doesn't mean that there are walls that doesn't need to be painted. To me, a pretty house could have some walls that are painted,
Mhm.
because you might have a kid's room that's purple, or maybe stars in the ceiling, or how the mothers do those things for the kids. Some things like that. Maybe the basement might need a shampooed rug. You know what I mean? It's definitely things that the homeowner could do easily,
Right.
right?
And to their satisfaction or their color choices too.
Right. And then to Naomi's point, there's the deferred maintenance house, which is between an ugly and a pretty house,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's livable, but it doesn't have. It has the disease in the industry right now. We have this horrible, horrible, nasty, ugly disease. I was watching TV yesterday with my children because they were here. Actually, my mother-in-law loves to watch these shows. And I realize why I don't watch them, because when I watch them, I want to go in the bathroom and I want to vomit. Honest to God, I do, because it's actually pretty gross. So she watches these flip and flop and Texas. They were watching yesterday, beach hunting houses, right? And they get all these very strange people that are looking for houses. And the first show that she watched was early in the morning. I was cooking breakfast, and I sat down and because we have a living room kitchen together, and she had just had the TV on, and it was the most bizarrest thing I ever saw. And then I talked to my mother-in-law, and it was even more bizarre. Her,
Perception of it.
oh my God.
Like, wow, it must be just so easy.
Oh my God. So they had a $200,000 house. They were looking at multiple $200,000 houses. I mean, they were in Texas, so they were like 198, 203, like it was definitely 199. It was definitely $200,000 neighborhoods, right? And they're just typical Texas brick houses that are just like one level. You could tell they probably don't. Some of them had basements, some of them didn't, right? Just a typical $200,000 house.
About how big are they?
1,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms type stuff, right?
Okay.
1 car, 2 car garage, right? Just
Okay.
in a regular neighborhood. Well, the people that were purchasing the house had a $450,000 budget. So they're looking at $200,000 houses, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well we can." And they were spending $175,000 on one house to renovate it. Well, first of all, that's not a renovation, because a renovation is remove and replace, and a remodel is when they were taking down walls and all that kind of stuff, right? So I was floored, because what I said to my mother-in-law is, "That's pretty cool that they're doing that, you know." I mean, okay, so I get that part, but I said to her, I said, "What happens when they go to sell the house and they owe $374 or $375 or whatever the number is, and it's only comps for $200?
I mean, they're doing this to flip, not to live in.
They're living in it."
Okay, yeah, but then down the
And
road,
that was her point. She says, "Oh, well, a lot of people come from California and they have a lot of money, and they need to sell it because otherwise, you know, they have tax consequences and they're going to live in it, and they don't worry about things like that." And that was her answer.
okay, definitely not the investor mindset.
Well, it's just not money savvy.
No.
It just doesn't make sense. My point is that I have decided to rant, which I've done for the last 5 minutes, about how these shows are killing our business because they put these weird ideas into our buyer's head, right? And probably the worst thing that happens for us, meaning Peter and I, because we have 3 houses right now, or I have 3 houses for sale right now, is if the houses are not like on TV and pristine when they go to buy them, then they don't sell. And they're making for very difficult closings. At least that's how I feel they are. I mean, I know Emma gets mad at me and my other daughter gets mad at me, Jessie, but, you know, we have this thing in our society called a millennial, which is fine. Actually, I've come to terms with it because they have a lot of great ideas and they're very good at things. But one thing that they aren't, and I noticed this because both my son-in-laws are the same way, when it comes to doing things themselves, and they're doing better now, but they don't know how to do things. You know, it wasn't like when we were kids. You know, we had no choice. We had no money, and we had to like
Figure it out.
put a toilet in. You know what I mean?
That's the difference. They have ideas. My kids had ideas growing up. Oh, when I get older, I'll just hire plumbers and I'll hire stuff. Next thing you know, they're in the driveway getting brakes off and on. You know, and they don't. My kid didn't know. He was getting at it there.
Right.
And I was the same way. Where I come from, my family comes from, the old country. You knew one thing: how to be a carpenter, or a bricklayer, or a shoe shine. And you couldn't do anything else. You had to hire the other guys. You had no idea how to do anything else. We're different in America. So I had to move from a butter knife or a screwdriver up to where I am now on my own, because that's how I started. We had no clue of anything.
I'm trying
so you have to
in
learn.
here. I think also a huge difference is we have YouTube.
Yeah.
So, like, if we need to install a toilet, we don't have to struggle with it for a month trying to figure it out. We just go on YouTube and there's a video teaching us how to do it.
Several videos.
Several, yeah. So it's a little different because we don't have to struggle as much to figure this stuff out. It's kind of given to us via the internet.
Right.
My kid
So
was,
I think it's more about the mindset you're talking about. We are much more instant gratification. We're much more, if we need it, it's right there. Whereas your generation had to work more to figure stuff out just because the internet wasn't around.
Exactly.
Well, when push comes to shove, they will pick up the screwdriver and eventually figure it out.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just it shows up in the house sale. That's all I'm saying is that with the TV, you know, with Hollywood making it look like in 20 minutes you can do a $164,000 renovation.
And you're entitled it to be really good, too.
Right.
Stuck my foot in that
so
one, didn't I?
because
They have that
because of that,
idea.
I mean, I never, I mean, I've been doing this 15 years and I've sold a lot of houses. It's only been the last couple of years that I have to, in a 800 or that house that we have, how big is that house in Bunch Street? What, 1,200 square feet, 1,100 square feet?
11 something.
We had to put granite countertop in it. I've never had to do that before. Used to just put countertops in there.
What was the 3 things a realtor said when we got on the phone with her? Does it have hardwood floors? Stainless steel appliances? Granite countertops? Thank you.
Check.
She didn't care about anything else.
Man, I was like, yes, sir. Check.
Yeah.
What if it was no? Well, goodbye.
Okay,
Good luck.
so just to clarify this, because I want to keep moving, because we could talk about this the whole show. The thing that I'm trying to say is that in my head, and I didn't realize it till today, there's 3 kinds of houses. There's an ugly house, there's a pretty house, and then there's deferred maintenance house.
Right.
And like the house I have in Clinton that I just bought, which we won't talk about this today. Ron LeGrand coined this word, which we're going to use some of his material today. The 14 reasons not to sell, I'm going to take right out of his book. So I want to make sure he gets credit because Ron LeGrand is the king, and I don't want to take anything away from him. So he calls it wholetailing, which is a wholesale retail deal. Like the house I just bought in Clinton. Yeah, I mean, the kitchen's completely function.
Right.
I mean, somebody could paint the cabinets and and it would look awesome. They have glass doors in them, all that kind of stuff.
But it just needs updating.
Yeah. So what we do is we kind of mix the two things. We actually sell an ugly house on a lease option. Okay, and I'm going to go over why we do that today. Okay, so let's just move on. So we know the difference between an ugly house and a pretty house, right? So an ugly house means that we have to put money into it. That's my definition. So it has nothing to do with whether it's ugly or not, because really that's a subjective reality, right?
Yeah, but aren't you really basing on the fact that you look at the house and you think, no one's going to buy it the way it is?
That's what I was just going to say. So
Right.
my
It's just,
my
if people would
definition
buy it,
of
we
an
wouldn't
ugly
care.
house is what will this attract? I'm a marketing guy. Like
Yeah.
Naomi and I had a couple deals where we were talking about, which I realized I was thinking about that the other day. We should talk about that. I'm a little picky about what I buy, which is not fair to her because I just don't buy everything. Okay, which I need to handle that. But my point is that we had a house. I don't know, where was it? West Haven, I think. And we were talking about unique selling proposition. Like, okay, so if we take this house on an option, right? Well, what can we offer our seller that nobody else can offer?
The seller or the buyer?
The buyer.
For the buyer.
Yeah. So what makes our house different?
Yeah, that somebody would go, oh, let's buy this one that's got what you come up with.
Right. So that's where the rule comes in that if you're going to buy ugly houses and rehab them or renovate them and sell them, they should be below market value and they should be exceptionally pretty. Okay, those are the houses that you should make look like A&E TV.
Right.
If you're not going to do that and you're going to sell on a rent-to-own or a lease with an option, then that is your unique selling proposition. So on the ugly houses, when you're selling for cash, it should be below market value. On the pretty houses, they can be above market value, right? Because you're offering no bank qualifying or owner financing, and you're giving one of the 81% of the population that can't get financed an opportunity to buy a house.
Right.
So the unique selling proposition is well, give me a few $1,000s down, give me so much a month, we'll help you get qualified, and within a certain time period, you'll buy the house.
And that's a good deal. People can't buy a house.
Here's the interesting thing, Peter. I didn't realize this, honestly, until it was yesterday and today that I've been thinking about what we're going to do today. And again, this is one of those epiphanies for me because I didn't even realize I was doing this. You remember when I made the comment a few months back about when I look at a deal structure, I look at the paperwork I do first?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing. When I look at a house, I look at how am I going to sell it, and then I back it up. So I look at the exit strategy first. Like we were just talking about a deal that I have in Middlebury, right, that I've been kind of dragging my feet on, and it's because, and I have the recording. You should listen to the recording of me doing the presentation, right? I really struggled with this house because the house, it was like a livable house, right?
But it needed work.
But it was just edgy, and it was like, it was kind of an ugly house. I mean, it didn't have any, it was on a lake, but it was just, I mean, they took a small house and ballooned it. So, it looks kind of funky from the street. It doesn't have a paved driveway. It's up on a hill. I mean, there was just a lot of trim missing. It needed rugs. It needed a kitchen, and all that was good, but she thought the house was worth $265,000, and I didn't think so.
That's
so
always a rough one.
My ARV was wrong.
Yeah. When people are like that, they just have this unrealistic viewpoint of what they have, and no one else is going to have that viewpoint.
Right. So the interesting thing is that, and for those that think we're kind of dragging their feet about selling, this is how you get to sell quickly, is you make these decisions early on. The decisions you make on the opening call have a lot to do with how you're going to sell the house. I mean, it all builds up to the climax, actually. Like, how are you gonna get out of this thing?
Sure.
Right. So these little things that we teach you on 103 shows so far, on how to negotiate a house and all that kind of stuff, it all builds up to this. Okay. And if you do it correctly, then the houses will sell quickly. Okay. So my point is that when I'm walking through the house, I'm thinking, well, let me divert for one more second, and then we'll definitely go on. We'll just move on. So when I look at marketing, I ask myself, am I, as the marketeer, am I building a bridge from the product to the client? Or am I building a bridge from the client to the product?
Wow.
How about both?
Well, explain me the difference.
So when I'm building a bridge from the client to the product, I'm like convincing them. I'm trying to get their attention. Say, hey, look at this. And then I'm trying to keep their attention with all a bunch of fancy, crazy shit.
You're trying to sell the product to them.
Trying to sell the product.
Convince them they need this somehow.
Right.
Without knowing what they really need, perhaps.
They may not even know it exists. And they may not even know they have the problem.
Yeah, I'm saying...
They just know they're uncomfortable.
Okay. And what's the other way?
The other way is when you build the bridge from the client to the product. So this is where you're helping them and walking the experience with them. So you're like walking them through the things they need to do to help solve their problem, which is how we buy houses. Is we build the bridge from the seller to the product of us help. So we walk with them and we experience it with them, and we know exactly what's going to happen next. And we say, when you go up to the stop sign, take a right turn, but as soon as you take a right turn, watch out, there's a pothole there, so make sure you swerve a little bit, right? And
Good
it's
communication.
like, and it's like they know what to expect, and they trust you, and you end up with a sale, right? So it's the same idea when you're selling. Like, what is the seller? What is the buyer going to think when they're going through the process? Right. So when I'm walking through the house and I'm looking at a house, I'm going through that in my head. And I didn't even realize I'm doing this. I'm going through my head. What are some of the objections, stalls, and resistance that I'm going to have to go through when my buyer walks through this house? What are the things I'm going to have to hear? And that is something that is just pure experience, because in the beginning I was a gun-ho son of a bitch. I mean, I bought everything, and I've got stories of houses that we bought that I should have never bought. I mean, I got to the end and I had 23 houses, and I was in a restaurant with my partner, and he had commercial property. I had 23 houses, and we added up the amount of money that I had, and I forget the exact number, 2.3 million I had, I think, or 2.6 million, and he had 2.3 million in commercial real estate, and he was netting $150,000 a year on his property, and we were netting like $4 or $5 grand on my property.
For the year?
For the year. No, that's not
monthly.
Right. No, he was netting $150,000 a year, and I was probably doing about 25 or 30,000 a year, two grand a month, $4 grand a month.
Wow. Wow, that's a huge difference.
And or maybe it was a little bit more. It was like 40,000. But it was a big difference between the 150,000. And the reason why is because I was just buying everything that came along my way, which is another reason why I'm a little bit picky. Now, maybe I'm too picky because I've gotten older and I don't want to work as much and that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
So in the beginning, you will, if you're not careful with what I'm talking about with the selling process, and I know I'm hammering this to death, I'm belaboring it, but when you walk through the house, it's a process to look at, okay, so what is the buyer going to experience when they walk through the house? Who is your buyer? I mean, I try to pick an avatar. I mean, I've had houses where I'm like, I know a Spanish girl with 3 kids is going to walk through this house like a Pearl, North 35 North Pearl. That's what's going to buy that house. It's going to be it's a Spanish neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood, but there's a park behind the house. She's going to let her kid go play in the park. It's like I actually build that in my head and then go look for that buyer. Right? So now you could do that on certain houses. You can't do that. When you're in a pretty house, you can't really. And when you're in a pretty house and you're going to do a lease option, you're going to actually marry the person because you're going to stay with them for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, right? But when you're selling an ugly house, you're going to probably sell it with a realtor or something along that line, and that's how you're going to do it. Right?
So you pay less attention to who might buy that? Does it matter as much? I see you do this. I don't know how you do this yet because I look at things like how it's going to end up.
Yeah.
There's a point in art that when you make any kind of art or music, you have to keep the listener and the audience in mind, like how they're going to like hearing this. So I'm used to thinking from the other perspective. So I look at the house and go, well, if it was me or someone else, I think that should look nice. That should be done. But I don't have like, well, it'll be a couple with 2 kids or however you do that. I don't have that figured out.
That's just experience because I've sold so many houses. I know what comes in.
Okay. Do you have to do that as much on the cash sales or not?
No, that's what my point is. So the unique selling proposition on the cash sale is you're below market value.
Yeah.
Right? So we're getting a little bit significant here. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is okay, so we know the difference between an ugly house. We're going to sell an ugly house probably with a realtor and on the MLS because we're going to only have, the last thing I want to say about this is because we're only going to have 12 months to pay for the money. Okay, so that's where I was kind of going down this rabbit hole. When I look at a house, the way that I'm borrowing the money helps me decide whether it's an ugly house or a pretty house. Right? So like this house in Clinton, it's even though it's not a pretty house, my unique selling proposition is I can get somebody to give me a deposit and then fix the house up themselves. Because it's not that bad.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I like the house. It was an older person who died, so it's beat up and old and nasty, but I just like the whole structure of the house and has lots of rooms and has that like a bit of a grandeur to it. And used to there's a swimming pool and you can see this used to be nice. Right. So somebody can bring it back to life.
Right.
And enjoy a really nice house with a family.
But nothing in that house needs like a wicked professional. I mean, a handyman, a guy that works at home could paint it, could clean it, could fix it up. It doesn't need like, I mean, other than appliances, it doesn't need anything huge. You know, it doesn't, I mean, can they take a kitchen out and put a new kitchen? Absolutely. But it's livable.
Yeah, they don't need spackle.
Right.
That's where I draw the line, spackle. Right. You know you're working them when there's spackle involved.
Okay, so we covered the whole first half of the show on ugly house, pretty houses, because I may think that makes a difference. So let's move on. Yeah. So having a pretty, so I want to make sure I say this right. So pretty houses, we don't put money into them. We don't get the deed in our name. And we sell them on a rent-to-own sale.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You want to elaborate on that? No?
I think you did great.
Did it? Okay, good. Where an ugly house, we're going to borrow private money or hard money. We borrow private money, but a lot of people borrow. And you're going to try to do it within a 12-month period. You're going to buy the house. You're going to fix it. You're going to put it back on the market, and you're going to sell it.
Right.
Okay, so let's... Go ahead.
And that's why I was saying like a deferred maintenance house can, in a sense, fall into that ugly house category.
Absolutely.
But what you were saying, which I agree with also, is it could also fall into like that wholetailing category as well as the third type of property.
So now let's go over how we sell pretty houses. Okay, so I have a little system, and I'm just going to rattle it off. You
rattle
ready?
Away?
So unless you want to do it. You think you can do it? No.
I mean, you market it via the internet, via signs, and between those two, you should get so much traffic. Now, you have an automated system that's very effective because you will get so much traffic. I mean, typically, whereas hundreds and hundreds, I mean, you just won't have the time in the day.
Right.
And so it's an automated filtration system.
Right.
that gives them the automated pre-recorded messages.
Right.
And everything is just automated down to, who goes into the house, if they're interested, their application of the home, so that at the end of the day, you've got, I've got, 4 applications.
Right.
Versus
Good.
you calling them up and...
Yeah, so they chase me instead of me chasing them.
Exactly.
All right, so it starts off like this. We do 12 to 15 signs in the neighborhood, say, house for sale, no bank qualifying, call the phone number. They call the phone number, an 800 recorded number, which I use, freedomvoice.com. Okay, so they call the free recorded message. The message pretty much says, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house located at 123 Main Street, and from obvious points, like, because most road systems you can like pick like obvious points to give directions. So if you're on, Curtis Street, go down Curtis Street, take a right at the church, take a left here, take a right there, and you can give them easy directions. If you're coming from the other direction, do this. But nowadays, that's not that important.
Everybody
because people have
GPS. I mean, I think it's funny that.
So I still give some directions just because they know they have an idea where it is. So I'll give directions and I'll tell them that they can go look at the house 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay? They get to the house and they get to the front door, and on the front door there's a sign that says, if you're this close, then dial this phone number and I'll give you the lockbox code. Right? So the house is vacant, and I know I've had people with reservations, but I've never had a problem, believe it or not, in 15 years. So they give them the lockbox code. So what happens is when they're calling, we capture their caller ID. So we know who's entered in the house. So if there was a problem, we just print the list and the cops go check it out, and there you go. Okay. So once they go in the house, there's a 3x2 or whatever, 3x3 whiteboard on an easel that says 3 things. Number 1, it says, if you walk around the house, make sure this is the house you want to buy. Number 2, make sure you bring whoever's going to be part of the sale with you or the decision process with you and make sure they like the house. Number 3, go to the kitchen counter and get the application pack or the flyer pack, as we nicknamed it. And in that flyer pack is the description of the house, a picture and description of the house, much like an MLS sheet. We have frequently asked questions there. If we have other houses for sale, we give directions to the other houses.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes we'll have 3 or 4 houses for sale, so we'll give them a sheet all on one page. It has a picture of the house on the left side and directions from that house on the right side, so they can leave that house and go look at other houses. And then we have the next step, which is a whole page talking about their deposit, how they can use it, which is my most favorite document I think I've ever used, because it talks about using trade-ins like cars and jewelry and boats and motorcycles and all kinds of stuff, which is really cool.
Opens up their mind to the creativity.
Yeah, it teaches them. It shows them that they can use their 401ks or their IRAs,
IRS refunds.
IRS refunds.
Right.
Yeah, all kinds of. I mean, it's all on one page. It's very easy to read, but it opens them, like Naomi said, it opens their mind.
Opens their mind. Yeah.
Right. And then the last thing is an application. Okay. So here are the statistics. My statistics, they're personal to me because I've done it a lot of times. If you don't get a minimum of 100 phone calls to the house, the likelihood of you not selling is going to be pretty high. This is the reason why for sale by owners, 88% of for sale by owners go to a realtor, because they don't generate enough money, phone calls to get the money.
Well, and the type of phone calls they're generating also are not the right phone calls.
Right.
Because out of the 19% of the market that is qualified,
right,
probably 95% of them, if not more, are working with realtors.
Right.
Because it doesn't cost them anything as a buyer to have a realtor work and search and everything.
Right.
And so what you're left with is that other 85% of the market, or 81% of the market.
Right.
And they really aren't going to be looking for a house because in their mind, they're not qualified.
Right.
So you're going to get investors and real estate agents.
Right. So the important thing here is that we're selling this house. The unique selling proposition is no bank qualifying,
exactly,
owner
which
financing.
pulls in that
Right.
81% of the market, and all of a sudden the giant wakes up.
Right.
And
You mean I can buy the house?
exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, with that said, we generate, between 100 and 130 or 40 phone calls. And I only do that. Nowadays it's so much simpler than it used to be.
Yeah.
But we do that with the 12 to 15 signs around the neighborhood that just simply say house for sale, no bank qualifying, and it goes to a free recorded message. And we do a Facebook ad. All I do, and I don't have a big, flipping house. It's not flipping houses. It's, we sell houses fast in Connecticut or something like that. It has,
Sell a house fast.
yeah, it has I think it's got like 30 people on the page, the visitor like the page. But what I do is I put an ad on the page and then I boost it. And I do it from that page.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is it sends people to our regular website. It sends traffic to the website.
Right.
And we'll get 100 phone calls. Okay, or 125 phone calls. Out of that, 20 to 30 people will walk through the house. Out of that, we'll end up having between 2 and 6 applications. Okay, and that takes 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It depends. The ads that we generate will generate that amount of traffic in 4 or 5 days on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Facebook is huge. There's other ways to do it, but
Yeah.
Craigslist is another great way to do
Zillow.
it. Zillow, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's like the system, if you would, for a lack of words. Okay, so just before we move on, because I want to go over the 14 reasons why a house doesn't sell, and that's how we're going to end off. But before we move on, the thing that I wanted to clarify here is, and make it very, very clear, is if you have a person that is willing to let you make payments until you can get them paid off, like we talk about all the time, either a slot deal, a lease option, a subject to, any one of those deals, right? If they're willing to let you make payments to pay the further expenses until you can get paid off, until they can get paid off, this is the way you sell a house. Mm. That's called owner financing.
Mm-hmm.
Because your buyer is the one paying for the. So when you say, can you buy a house without a loan? Everybody thinks that Carlton Sheets has this scam, and Robert, all these guys, I forgot his name.
Robert Allen?
Robert Allen came up with all these scammed ideas that, because I hear that all the time. Oh, that's a scam because it used to be on late night TV. It is not. It is not a scam for the simple reason that when I say you can buy a house without a loan, it just simply means instead of going to the bank and paying for it within 30 days, you're going to go find your buyer and you're going to do this with him. You're going to go just the way we're talking about how you find a buyer. Mm-hmm. You're going to do these things we're talking about. And you're going to get a bunch of people to call at the house, and you're going to have them go look at it, and then somebody will have a deposit and be able to make the monthly payment, and you'll sell the house. So the truth of the matter is if you wanted to hustle, and I say this because I'm not doing this myself, and I kind of go in and out of it. When I need money, I do it. When I don't need money, you know what I mean? It's kind of like that's how I do it.
ATM machine.
Yeah, it is. It really comes down to how many for sale by owners you're calling to find these deals. Once you find them, and I said in the beginning of the show that I said this is the easiest part. On this podcast, learn how selling houses should be the easiest part of your business because you can automate it. And you can get a lot of traffic there, and you can get people to look at the house, and it doesn't matter if it's ugly or pretty or anything because the financing is going to trump all of that.
Yeah, they can't buy the house any other way.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're doing them a service.
So as long as you're not asking $265,000 for a house that's worth, that needs work, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? So that's all my point is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you could do multiple of these a month. If the hard part is, which is why we spend so much time on it, is actually finding them. Because in the beginning, if you're new, you're going to have to make a lot of phone calls to find the low-hanging fruit. Somebody that's going to allow you to do this. If you want to get some of my training or other people's training, right, then you're going to have to work at it, and you can make less phone calls because you'll start getting better at negotiating and sales tactics and all that kind of stuff, and you'll make less phone calls, right, which is kind of where I'm at. I don't need to make a lot of phone calls to find a house because I can just get on the phone and just talk to somebody, and then next thing you know, we're in a deal.
Right.
Where somebody that doesn't have that talent, which is totally fine because, there's a lot of people that do or don't have my talent. I'm not anybody special. I just put my time in. That's all I did, right? Until you can get your time in and learn it, you just got to make a lot of phone calls, which is the hardest part.
Right.
So finding the deals and getting them is the hardest part. Selling them is the easiest part because once you have them, there's a big, what you call a big giant.
That you wake up the giant,
Yeah.
that 81%.
There's a big pool of people that will want to pay as they go. Right? So is that clear?
Yes.
I feel like this is why we don't talk about selling houses a lot because it's too simple. Right?
Well, you can't sell it unless you buy them. So everyone talks more about buying. But you made a good point. I think it was last week that somebody might be worried about selling the house, so they may hold back buying the house. So you want to know your end,
right?
So you can do the
and
beginning.
it's the selling, the for sale by owner trying to sell the house that is the trigger that allows you to help them. So it all goes full circle.
Right. So let's go back to the 14 ways. So Ron LeGrand wrote a book, How to Be a Quick Turn Real Estate Entrepreneur in Any Economy. And it's, I don't know, this has been around for a few years, right, Peter? Copyright 2015. Okay, so in there he talks about, in chapter 11, he talks about selling houses fast, and there's 14 reasons why you don't sell a house. Okay, so I'm just going to read them off right out of his book because I don't need to reinvent this. I mean, he's bought and sold, last time I know, over 3,000 houses, so he has something to say about this, right? So, and I don't want him to think I'm stealing his materials. I mean, he was one of my 3 mentors.
Right.
He was not the closest mentor that I had. I started with him, and he gave me the concepts.
Right.
Richard Roop and Dan Duran at the time were together, and I got involved with their coaching way back in the day, 10 years ago, and they were the ones that actually got me to start buying houses. But Ron has some great ideas. Okay. And ironically enough, it's kind of weird what happened to me because I kind of drifted away from Ron for a while, and then I kind of went through my coaching, and then I just stopped doing everything. I just started doing it on my own, and then I started figuring things out, and it took me years to figure things out, which is why I can speak the way I speak, because had I stuck with Ron, he says them in his lessons, in his early lessons. You go to his seminars, and he tells you right up front, he's just blunt. He's a grouchy old guy he's a fantastic guy, but he's a grouchy old guy because everybody's poking at him because he's in seminars and around the world and, does whatever he does. And the point that I'm making is that things that I learned on my own, I go back and it looks like I learned them from him, but he didn't talk about that stuff back then. The stuff that we talk about, that he now talks about, we didn't talk about then. So I kind of like grew up with him, I think, because I learned them, and then I go back and I'm telling you guys some of this stuff, and it's the same thing he now talks about in his new seminars. Right. It's stuff so it's kind of like I feel like I kind of grew with him, but
well, it's an industry.
But I'm
it's
not saying that. I mean, he definitely is way ahead of me. That's for sure. I'm not saying that I'm equal to Ron LeGrand, but go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying it's a community.
Right.
It's an industry that's a community. So knowledge, like doctors, data moves forward. They share, comes around, and sometimes you don't know who came up with what, but they're all moving forward, learning.
Truth is truth, no matter.
It's
just what happens.
The trick is how to present it so people can get it.
14 main reasons why houses don't sell. Number 1, not ready to sell. Number 2, poor area. Number 3, overpriced. Number 4, salesperson's personality problems. That's a Ron LeGrand statement. Number 5, inflexibility of seller. Number 6, salesperson's lack of knowledge about available financing programs. Number 7, salesperson's lack of knowledge about attracting and pre-screening leads. Number 8, no follow-up system in place. 35% of my houses are bought from follow-up when I buy them. Number 9, functional obsolescence. Yeah.
Is that like you're dysfunctional?
Yeah.
That's like, yeah.
Number 10, house very small. excuse me, number 11, salesperson losing control of the loan process. Number 12, house too far from city. Number 13, house and price range too high for most buyers. And number 14, only one bath, which the one bath doesn't bother me, but all right, so let's buzz through a few of these, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So
now, do these apply? Some of these seem to apply to sales with realtors, and some seem to apply more to terms deal. Is there a differentiation in that?
no, that's why I spent the first half hour of the show talking about that, because I wanted to make sure that when we got to this, we answer those questions.
Yeah,
Right.
good.
That's why we spend so much time on the beginning of the
Okay.
show, and we might have bored some people, but it's very important, because when you get to these, I'm going to tell you my personal belief. Number one on the list, the only two reasons why somebody sells a house, are selling a house, is A, they need money, or B, it's a problem and they want it out of their life. Now, that's happened to me both times when I'm selling. Like 35 North Pearl Street right now is a problem for me. You know, I'm at my year loan and I need to get the loan paid off. It's a problem for me. So I need to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so there you go. You know, I mean, I need to pay some taxes on it, and it's been sitting there. It just needs to be sold. Right? I get caught with them too, right?
Yeah.
Or you just need the money. So I was taught very, I want to say infatuately. Is that a word?
Emphatically?
Emphatically.
Emphatically.
Emphatically. Yeah, there you go. Emphatically. That if you don't sell a house, the price is too high. It's always price. Right? Even dysfunctional houses
Can sell.
have a price.
Yeah.
Well, if it's cheap enough, somebody will buy it.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
I like the other
Are you
points too,
losing
though.
money?
I mean, I like the idea of like not limiting it down to the guy who like, oh, I'll take it at that price, and have it be like something
Right.
that somebody will buy at a reasonable price. So what else we got?
So Ron says that if it's not ready to sell, he says that the front appearance is not good, so they don't want to see the inside. Roof doesn't need to be roof; it needs to be replaced. Exterior paints.
These are all aesthetic things. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says. He says that you should have at least two colors. My theory is three colors. You shouldn't have more than three colors, but definitely two colors. You should have like a white house with black shutters or something like that. Or
As opposed to the house, the entire thing is painted the same color,
yeah,
the
same
trim and everything.
contrast. Yeah, they just spray.
Right.
Right.
Bleh.
So interior paints should be two colors. Interior trim should be different colors than the walls. The carpet shouldn't be old and lifeless, right? Central heat and air conditioning has to work, and the kitchen doesn't. He doesn't so much go into like it looks ugly, but it has plenty of cabinet space and enough to get by, right? So, I know there's been kitchens like the one we did in Bunch Street. You really worked at making sure that it was functionable. Right. So
the cabinets arrived at the other house Tuesday.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
A room full. Oh, boy.
So the other thing you have to make sure of is that it's appraised
The RV is
correctly.
correct. Yeah.
You got to make sure the appraisal's done. Let me see here. Obviously, you got to have a good reputation. You know, we always go safe point to neighborhood with neighbors. We always go talk to the neighbors and let them know who we are and what we're doing. Like my house in Plainville right now, the guy next door is cutting the grass for me. You know, and he texts me to cut the grass, and I go up to the house and I leave the money put the money in an envelope in cash, and I leave it in his mailbox, and he calls me again, so
Nice.
I don't have to worry
That's
about
great.
it. Right? Okay, so does that make sense? Not ready to sell. That's
Sure.
kind of an obvious one, right?
Sure.
Poor area, right? Poor area is a war zone,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Or low income areas.
Mm.
You know, it's kind of like what I'm running into a little bit with Meriden.
Is that what it is? I haven't
It's a
seen
lower
that one.
income.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you always make the point that you look around the neighborhood and you see that somebody bought it because there's people living there.
Right.
I'm not sure if that means renters, not owners, but if there's people living there, it's better than like all boarded up.
Right.
True.
Well, the neighborhood, which by the way, I went through this with my wife one time. We were driving through looking at a house, and she said, this is a bad neighborhood. And I stopped the car like right in the middle of, there was no traffic, right in the middle of the road. I just stopped the car. And I said to her, what makes you say that? She goes, well, it's low income, and there's maybe drugs and, schools and blah, 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 blah. And she just rattled on all this stuff. And I said to her, okay. She goes, no, I know you better than that. I'm like,
it's not just okay.
Yeah, you're my wrong.
Okay, what?
You're my wrong public. You're not the person I'm going to try to sell this house to, because she doesn't live in a house like that. I said, what I want you to do is I want you to use your observation skills, and I want you to look around, and I want you to tell me how many boarded up houses there are here. She looks around, and she goes, there's none.
Exactly.
So that means every house that we're looking at, and we see a lot of them right now, somebody's living in them.
Yeah.
So that means somebody will buy a house, or somebody will rent a house, or somebody will live in that house, right? I'll never forget. I learned that lesson early on, and I know that we've done this because when I was learning how to renovate houses, which I already had a pretty good knowledge because I was an electrician when I first started, so I was in the construction business. But it's like, how do you know whether you should put windows in the house? Like how do you know, should I change the windows? Most people will be like, well, the house will sell better. And that's their opinions. They think that the house will sell better because they would buy it if
they're looking through their perspective.
It's the wrong way to do it.
You have to look at the buyers in the area. What are the other houses like?
That's right. So what I do is I stand on the front step and I look to the left and I look to the right and I take a survey of how many houses have vinyl windows.
Yep.
If all of them have vinyl windows, then guess what? Siding is the same way. Should I side the house?
Yeah.
I don't know. Survey the neighborhood. How many houses in the neighborhood have siding? I mean, I have houses that I bought that have asbestos shingles on it, but the whole neighborhood's that way, so I don't do it. Or that's an advantage, like we were talking about before. You could side it because it'd be the only one in the neighborhood that's sided, and that could be your unique selling proposition. It could be the prettiest house in the neighborhood just by siding it. Right, but let me tell you something. Siding's $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on most houses. That takes a chunk of dough.
Oh yeah.
Right, and that's right from the street. So, you got to be careful when you have to take your opinion out of things, and that's very hard for a lot of people to do because you have to just observe for what it is. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at Peter right now, and the way he's looking at me, I can only see he has two eyes, one nose, and one ear. I can't assume that he has two ears because I can't see the other ear.
I don't.
It's just observation skills. I mean, it's a weird drill, but it's just observation skills. So I'm gonna use the data that he's got two eyes, one nose, a mouth, and one ear. I'm not going to assume he has two ears. So when you're doing this, you have to do that. You have to make. Or if I think he has another ear, I need to walk around the other side of his head and make sure there's another ear.
But don't actually assume.
But don't assume. Make sure you actually observe it yourself.
You never say, well, I wouldn't, because you're not buying it.
Right.
You're selling it.
Right. Okay. So does that make sense? So poor area is another obvious one, right? Overpriced, which is the one we just spoke about. Overpriced is a big problem, right? Because I go through this with every single house I sell. This is a problem that I have with every single house I sell. It's like we just went through this in the house that we're selling in
yours, Plainville or mine?
Plainville. Sorry, thank you.
Plainville.
So it's like she comped it, and she's like, I always ask the realtor, what do you think we should do? She's like, I think we should list it for $316. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, just give me some good comps, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, right? And I came back to her, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. She goes, okay. I'm like, I want to do $299 because I think $316 is a stretch. Here's what I have found is when you first come out of the chute, in other words, when you first put it on the market, I want to catch as much attention as I can. Yeah. So $316 is a stretch.
Yeah. Not to say that it couldn't happen, but
the interesting thing is when I comped the house, I comped it for $280. And she doesn't know that, so I'm $20,000 above my ARV anyways, my after renovated value anyway. So it's like, and sure enough, we sold the house in 2 days. The deal didn't go through, but we sold the house in 2 days because I think it was priced correctly.
Right.
It's the only house I think in that town, but definitely in a neighborhood that's got 2,600 square feet.
Sure.
It is definitely the biggest house in the area. And it's only because they put a big, huge addition on the back that had a bunch of
yeah, it's a big addition.
yeah, the
big master
bedroom,
suite,
the master bedroom.
Yeah.
Okay, so overpriced is a big one.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know that we're going to talk about this after the show. I know that we have the other two houses. I have a couple bright ideas on what we're going to do.
Okay.
But price, you get to a point like my house on North Pearl, it's not overpriced. I mean, I put it out at for one. They told me it was $160. I'm down to $139.9. It's not price. It's just
something else.
It's stale on the MLS. That's what it is.
So you could take it down completely.
Salesperson's personality problems. Oh my God, this is at the end of the show, but I can tell you. Go ahead, Naomi. You do it because I'll go on for like another freaking 2 hours. Go ahead.
I'll make it nice and succinct.
There you go.
Well, who is the salesman?
Or salesperson?
Yeah, is it us, like in the house, buying and selling, or are you talking
about
realtor?
what is the definition of a salesperson?
Somebody who sells. I'm just trying to get.
Okay, so there you go.
Right.
Depending on which way you do it.
So the way we have it is pretty automated.
Yeah.
So in the when you're dealing with a real estate agent, and whether they're where do you start?
Yeah.
Well,
but just in the communications of even showing the house, and it can only be from this small window of time to that small window of time, and can you my buyer is coming in from some heavy traffic, can you just maybe give a little bit of leeway? Oh no, absolutely not. Or it could go on and on.
All right, so here's what I want to do. We talked about a show or two ago where you made a comment because you have a management business.
Right.
So why don't you just give the name of your business?
So it's Freeman and Company.
Freeman and Company. So they could look you up online, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in the New Haven County area and you want to have you manage the property, then you can do that, right?
Correct.
So say it again, it's Freeman?
Freeman and Company.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And you have a phone number?
I do.
What is it? You don't know?
It's
I knew we were going to do that. I was hesitant. Okay, so Freeman and Company, just Google it.
It's on the website, yeah.
Yeah. So my point is this, that you made a comment about the girl that you just hired about renting an apartment. What did you teach her? What was the number one thing about talking?
Right. So there's you cannot say anything about the neighborhood. Is that what you're talking about? And it's a bizarre thing because you would think you'd be able to talk to the buyers and you really talk up the neighborhood, and this is a great neighborhood, and and we've got a school over here, and so all of that. Yeah, the saying is show up, shut up, and wear beige.
Right.
Like you just sort of disappear. If they ask you, well, how is the neighborhood or whatever, you cannot say. They could sue you for it.
Right. So that's a little bit to the extreme, but it makes the point that I want to make. When you say a bad salesperson, here's what I think. A bad salesperson gives their opinion in the close. Like, I think the school is good. I think this is the right color. Now, obviously, that has something to do with their passion, but everybody has different opinions. So I'm not telling you to lie or fake it or anything, but just restrain from giving your opinion. Well, in the seminars recently, I talk a lot about you're safest in the other person's world.
Exactly. Get into the other person's world. So ask a lot of questions.
Right.
You can respond to a question with another question.
Exactly.
They won't notice you're not answering them, and you'll find out what they're really looking for, and just
exactly.
no answer somehow.
I disagree with that. You could do that occasionally, but if you don't answer somebody's question, that's trouble. I mean, like a seller says, how much are you willing to offer me? Well, how much are you going to take? You know what I mean? It's just...
No, I mean, just questions about neighborhoods and things. Yeah. So what do you like to see in a neighborhood? I mean, you could ask, what do you like to see in a neighborhood? I like to see parks. Oh, there's a park over there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, just to find out.
There's nothing wrong with that. I just want to make sure.
I don't mean avoiding people.
Right.
Yeah. You don't avoid the question.
You don't have to worry about it, but technically, as a real estate agent, they can't even say, there's a park over there.
Right.
So you can't even say there's a park over there.
You can't say there's a park there?
I mean, well, a park is okay because it's not associated with
her thing
disability, religion.
Yeah.
There's a whole list.
So she's saying the house is a walk away from the lake. You know, you could walk to the lake.
Right,
and
but
now
you
what
can't
happens is
necessarily say
discrimination
walk.
because somebody that can't walk will feel discriminated
Exactly.
against.
Can you say there's a park half a mile away?
Right.
I mean, a park is okay because it's not on the discriminated, like religion or disability or race or color or sex or anything like that. But so the safest thing is just to tell people, do your own research.
So salesperson's personality problems, to me, all that means is they've injected their opinion. They think they're right.
Mm-hmm.
They think their opinion counts above everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like a no bestie type of a person that they think that they've got it figured out and they're gonna show you how to live. Okay, so that's what that means to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inflexibility of a seller. That goes without telling. I mean, we deal with those all the time.
All the time.
What does that mean? They're not flexible.
They're not flexible. Yeah.
So we have a different word for that. It's called a suspect. So in other words, don't be a suspect yourself when you're selling a house. Okay. So salesman lack of knowledge about available finance programs. Forget about the financing programs. Just the salesman's lack of knowledge. That's the biggest thing that I run into is they just don't know. A, they don't know salesman technology. B, like we were just talking about before, it's the most confounding thing, and I could again talk about this for probably a whole show by itself. I could turn this into a one-day seminar probably. Why people feel like they have to be smart is beyond me. So it's like you have a question, the seller has a question, like for example, when we're buying houses, right? The seller will say, how does that work? How does that work?
Mm-hmm.
And then the salesperson or the person that's trying to buy the house will make something up if they don't have an answer. Instead of just saying, I don't know, let me go find out.
Let me find out. Yeah. You get so much more credibility by saying, I don't know.
How does a lease option work? And if you're new, you'll be like, I don't know.
Beats me.
Or they'll make some weird thing up that's not correct, but it's the way they understood it. But in this particular case, Ron is talking about knowledge of all finance programs, like FHA mortgages, CHFA mortgages, all those different type of government mortgages. If you don't have any knowledge of that stuff, you aren't going to be able to put your buyer into the right program.
Right.
But who'd be doing that?
The person selling the house.
But is that the person selling the house or the realtor?
That would be more of the realtor when you're dealing with the buyer and the right
So why
program.
are you confused with this? Because that's the third time you've asked this question.
Yeah,
so
because
it's two different types of sales, which you covered earlier.
No. So who's selling the house?
Well, that's why I asked before. Is it the deals we have with realtors?
So pick a deal. Just pick a deal.
Well, if it's a realtor, we don't even talk.
Pick
to the
a house.
person.
Pick a house.
One of our houses?
Pick a house.
Well, the Bund Street.
Okay, so who's selling that house?
The realtor.
Okay, good.
So it's them.
Okay, good. So now my house in Clinton I'm going to sell
Right.
on a lease option. Who's selling that house?
You'll be selling that one.
Okay, so it says the seller.
Yeah.
Does it matter whether it's a realtor or if it's me?
No, I'm just trying to get. That's what I'm saying. The realtor would be doing that. Wouldn't be us. In the other situation, when you have, I guess it's just a question I have. Then when you have somebody that needs to get qualified for the mortgage, you might turn them over to one of those agencies that help them get qualified.
Right.
How far do they go? Because I don't know. I haven't been into those kind of deals that much at the end. Do they help with this part, or do we help with that part of the mortgage once they get them qualified?
Right. So if you have somebody, you're a realtor and you're standing in a house, and a person says that you're selling them a $130,000 house, okay, and the person says, I've got $2,000 for a down payment. What's the realtor going to say?
I don't know.
See, that's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Salesperson, lack of knowledge about available financing programs. What I'm going to say is, if you have $2,000, you're not going to be able to buy the house because the best mortgage I can put you into is a FHA mortgage. You need at least 3% down, and 3% on a $130,000 house is at least $4,000. So if you don't have $4,000, we can't write the contract up.
Right. But the realtor would do that, unless it's one of our terms deals. I guess I still have the question. This is just a completely different question. If they haven't been through this, when you have somebody helping one of the buyers who can't get qualified and they need a year or two to get straightened out so they can get a mortgage, whether it's Lexington Law or one of those companies, how far do they go in the process? Do they help them get the mortgage too?
Help.
Hit me.
I have no idea what he just said.
The people who are not qualified, that they start the lease.
So now you're going
process.
over. You're doing a different scenario. So now we're going to do a lease option.
Yeah, and in terms deals, when people need to get help to get the mortgage after a year
So
or
what
two.
we're going to do is we're going to get them. What we are going to do is get their. If it's a credit situation, we're going to get them to do their credit
repair.
Right.
And then
But
once they get the credit repair, once we know their score is up, we'll then have the mortgage broker call them and say their credit's up. Get a hold of them.
All right, so it's two different pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just okay. That's what I didn't know if that credit agency goes to the second step
So
or not.
so it says salesman lack of knowledge about available financing. You just manifested those exact things.
Sure, because I'm way up here on the what I've been learning, and I haven't been working as much. I've done a little bit
at the
but not
end
as much.
of the.
I haven't gone to that part of it.
But do you see how it could affect the sale?
Oh, sure. If I were there, I'd be like, okay, next thing to learn, quick.
Right.
Right.
That's not my problem right now. I got problems in this piece.
In the first portion. Yep.
Yep, I get it.
Good. So the one that people worry about the most is a salesperson's lack of knowledge about attracting and pre-screening leads.
Yeah.
And that's what my little system does.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if anybody's trying to figure out what to do, if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, the How to Buy a House Without a Loan course has all of this in it. It has how to not only buy the houses, but I show you how to sell them. All my paperwork's in there. I show you the exact ads I use. I show you how to attract the leads. The system I just told you about, it's all there. And it's step by step, and you could literally spend, less than a couple of hours on those 4 or 5 videos. Or 4 or 5 modules, or whatever they are. I think there's 3 modules, right? Less than a couple of hours, one evening, and know how to sell houses. I give you the ads, I give you screenshots, I do the whole 9 yards. Next, no follow-up system in place. That's kind of goes without saying.
Yeah.
What's a follow-up system?
Following up with the sellers it's talking about, correct? So you can put them on an automated campaign or something.
Right. So let's go back to Peter's example. He's in the house. They say they got $2,000.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all they can come up with. We put them in the follow-up system. What are we following up on?
Their circumstances may have changed.
So when can they get their $4,000 or $5,000 that we need for down payment? So they say, well, my income tax check is coming next month. So you put them in the follow-up system. So you call them next month and say, did you get your $4,000? Exactly. Now, are we going to sell them that same house? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
But we're going to follow up with them to find out when did they get their $4,000.
That's right.
Right. So that's just a common follow-up example. Right.
Sort of a no-brainer, but nevertheless.
Well, you got to talk about it. Yeah.
You have to talk about it.
So functional obsolescence, which is pretty much dysfunctional.
Like having a bathroom in between 2 bedrooms.
Right.
And so a guest would have to walk through a bedroom to get to the bathroom.
Right.
Or
vice versa. You have to walk through the bathroom to get to a bedroom.
Right. Just weird stuff like that.
Right. Or things like one house I looked at, it had the kitchen in the basement.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Every Italian home has a kitchen in the basement.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't want to use the kitchen upstairs. You're going to mess it up.
It was the only kitchen.
Oh, that's not right. You're supposed to have one upstairs that you don't use. Now, does it say anything else in there? Because obsolescence means old. That include like dated?
He said there's this one is a house problem, not a people problem. You usually can't fix it, so you shouldn't buy it if it's present. And he gives examples like extremely small rooms, bath off the kitchen, walk through a bedroom to get to the other bath, low ceilings, under 7 feet, that kind of stuff.
Well, some of those things used to function in the old days.
Am I saying the word wrong?
Yeah.
No, obsolescence, no.
Right.
That just means
so
old.
it's obsolete.
Yeah. So there's some of those examples are like, we've seen houses, these rooms are small. In the old days, people didn't care. They're happy to have anything. Now, it's not open space. They're fussier.
Yeah.
Low ceilings. They didn't care. They had a house. They're out. They're not inside. They're not freezing outside.
You have to realize that what we deal with in society is much different than what we used to. Used to be a house was a way to get you out of the elements. So 75, 100 years ago, that was a problem, being sheltered from the elements. Nowadays, we don't even think about the elements. It's not only do we want to be sheltered about it, but between our houses and our cars and our work, but we don't think about the only problem with the elements is driving. Mm-hmm. Other than that, when do you think about the elements? When do you think about is it snowing or raining or hot or cold? It's more like, how do I dress today? Mm-hmm. It's not like, how do I survive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where 75, 100 years ago was much different.
Yeah. Even cars used to be to get around.
Right.
Now they can have Wi-Fi, run my Spotify through my Bluetooth, and play games while I'm driving.
Absolutely.
Right, so,
it's like a living room.
We're going to wrap up here. So, salesperson losing control of the loan process, that is pretty common. It just simply means that they went in something you said, which we don't have time to cover. You've said it 3 times today, where it's like you gave the connotation that you're going to turn it over to somebody and they're going to run it for you. Like you're going to turn it over to the finance, the credit repair guy, and what are they going to do? And you never do that. If you do, then you lose a close. And even though you have somebody in the house renting the house and all that kind of stuff, you still got to close. You can't forget about it. So there's only one person that's ever going to run your sale, and that's you. So you just need to make sure you do that. House too far from the city is obvious. There you go. And then a house in price range is too high for most buyers. So those are kind of common sense. So thank you, Ron LeGrand, for the 14 ways that we don't buy houses. And go buy his book. It's called How to Be a Quick Turn Real Estate Entrepreneur in Any Economy. You can find it on Amazon. I think they're $15. It's a good book. Okay? Yeah. So M's nudging me over here. I can't see the clock, but I think we're way over.
Yes. About
1:10. Yeah, we're way over. So I hope this podcast helped. Please go to Flipping Houses for Rookies and give us a review. I actually have, by next week when we do this podcast, I'm actually going to be giving away vacations, 3-day vacations for reviews. That's what I'm going to do.
What?
Yes.
We'll talk about that at lunch.
I have a crazy idea, but I want to get reviews. Good or bad reviews, I'm going to start giving away vacations, 3-day vacations for reviews.
Bill, I think you should have me test your vacation first.
Yes.
Make sure it's okay.
Yes.
All right.
Pete and I will be on there like,
no problem.
let's see, what name
we'll
can we make
We'll just
up?
go on
Eric.
vacation, make sure it's like what they say it is.
That's
No
right.
problem.
To make sure the product is good for our
Okay.
listeners.
So we're over and out. See
Over
you next
and
week.
out.
FlippingHousesForRookies.com. Go there, check it out. We can either help you, answer support tickets. Anything I'm talking about is on that website.
3-day vacation.
Pretty soon.
Wow. Nice.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.